episode number 2 of 3, this time 4 people saying random nonsense and some of it being extremely informative at times. Well, who would have thought?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get started. So, first off, today we have with us Rishit, who is a C++ and C# programmer. And if you'd like to introduce himself.
Yeah, hey, I'm Rishit, aka Coderush, and I write a bunch of code, and I'm just here to talk about stuff. Yeah, back to you, Steve.
Beautiful. Next up, we have 8 Rocks.
Hey there.
And
Feel free to call me 8 Rocks. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. And yeah.
And then we have Dried.
Yo, how are you?
Well, contrary to public opinion, Dried's humor is actually not dry at all. So today's topic. Okay, come on, man. I tried to make a joke. I appreciate it. Anyway, so today's topics we got. Aside from, global warming and doomerism, we got Linux is not an operating system, FreeBSD, and text editors. So, to be honest, Linux is not an operating system. It's a kernel.
Yeah, it is a kernel. That's like it's common sense in a way.
But the thing is, what is the operating system?
The whole collection of Linux and Unix utilities.
Well, Unix utilities are old. I think 8 Rocks can explain this better than most can, because he's been fucking with this for a long time.
The way, at least, Richard Stallman likes to describe it, it's GNU plus Linux. It's basically, the core utils and all the stuff, Stallman wrote, and together with, the Linux kernel, and together it created this, system that is nowadays used by many people, many geeks.
Many companies.
Such as us, yeah.
Like, fucking, dude, companies capitalize on it more than anybody else. Like, fucking, all of the web servers, and I say web servers, not servers, I think 90-something% of them, don't quote me on this, run Linux. And they're running fucking well, I can tell you that much. Because it's very rare to see a crash, all these fucking companies having 99.9% uptimes.
That's true, yeah.
Some other number pulled out of their ass.
And it's mostly Linux. And, Unix in general is just...
dead. On the note of Unix, the only, actual descendant, which is BSD and its derivatives, FreeBSD. And the only guy who actually bothers using FreeBSD here is BSD Dried.
BSD.
Yeah. He loves it. I don't know why. Do you even have Wi-Fi drivers, Dried?
I use Ethernet for that, so I don't really use I use my Wi-Fi drivers when I'm on Linux, though.
Yeah, but the thing is that, don't you face problems using FreeBSD as a daily operating system?
Not really. If you the documentation for everything is and there's not really a problem.
Yeah, that is true.
People who go into BSD, they assume that everything's not working. What in reality, you just gotta read the documentation, and once you do that, everything's figured out.
Yeah, that is true. On that note,
except the drivers for some stuff. Then
drivers are a huge pain in the ass in all the BSDs. But on that note, as we have,
I think I think it also applies to distros or Arch Linux, for example. It's also just a matter of reading documentation and configuring stuff. Yeah. So it probably applies to many different systems, so to speak.
Yeah, but
especially down NixOS, I guess.
Fucking NixOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as the Linux defenders, Aatrox and Rishit, Linux tends to have not the best documentation for anything really, except for
Yeah.
the newly available Arch Linux docs. Those are amazing, but let's be honest, they're still not as elaborate as any of the BSD docs ever will be.
We need to clarify. Are you talking about the kernel, or are you talking about,
I'm talking
you
about
know,
the
quote
distros.
unquote Linux distros?
I'm talking about the quote-unquote Linux distros and the kernels.
Oh yeah.
However,
Yeah, totally.
the Linux distros do seem to do a better job at documentation than the kernel ever fucking could. Because God forbid you want to write a driver. My balls explode when I literally open the .c file and I go like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna write a Linux driver. It's just not like possible to write one without investing hours and hours of time going through commit history, dude. Like one time I was looking for this PlayStation driver, right? Because the PS4 jailbreak was newly out. I was like, okay, let's install Linux. That shit took me a decade to find. And when I found it, well, there was some Southbridge issue, but that's a whole different story. Point is, I was like, okay, so why not, write a new driver or something? And then I go and I look at it and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
I know.
Yeah, dude, but like then you go to FreeBSD, right? As Dryde said, the documentation is great. Like there's like 6 books you can find, up-to-date books on Linux FreeBSD drivers. But on Linux, there's just nothing. At least I couldn't find anything. Coderish, I think, has tried to write a Linux driver before.
Yeah, I have, and it wasn't very pleasant as compared to the FreeBSD documentation. Indeed, it is. It's kind of a drastic difference.
Yeah, that's sure.
Like the.
Oh damn. On the note of writing stuff, Aatrox has tried more. Yeah, dude, come on. Transitions are amazing.
Okay,
I'm better.
You know what?
I'm better than
The
Linux.
transition is awesome. You know what? It's true. You know, the other day. Okay, so the way I got here was basically you texted me one day sending me the first episode, and you were like, "Yeah, you're gonna be on the next one without further context, and you're gonna speak about text editors." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that many, you know." And so then, to prepare for this episode, I basically also taken the time to, think how many text editors do I actually know? And so it turns out, for example, editors I have used are vvim, neovim, nano, midnight commander, aka MC edit, sublime text, VS code, CABT edit, Android Studio, Notepad++, PyCharm, Atom, and editors I've just quickly taken a look at and thought, yeah, they aren't for me, were, for example, Micro, Emacs, Helix, Eclipse, Ed, and a couple other CRI editors.
Yo.
So turns out I've used quite a lot, I guess.
Yeah, dude, like every
On that note-
day. Every other day, Aatrox is trying a new thing, and that's what makes him
I
special.
guess.
Yeah.
You know what? On that note, I'm actually quite curious about what text editors you guys use.
Oh yeah, Rishit has a really strong opinion on this. He loves Emacs for some odd reason. Like one day.
Or
No.
I like
no.
it's not like I'm an Emacs advocate or anything. It's just that some things about Emacs just work better in my context.
Let me give you the backstory
Like-
here. Let me give you the backstory. I'm sorry for interrupting, but you need to know this, Aatrox. One day, right? I think this was like 2021, right? I'm just like fucking looking for new editors, and I find out about Doom Emacs. I was like, holy shit, this is the shit that like I do with everything new that I find. I sent it to Coderish, and turns out Coderish has stuck with it since fucking 2 years, and has been using it as his main. I do not understand how this man can understand technology as complicated as Emacs. He can probably drive a BMW if he can use Emacs.
You know, we'll also get to Emacs. I've also, taken a look at the, I guess, just minimal look at the history and stuff. So also, I mean, sure, please go on with the text editors you use.
Yeah, sorry. As Rishit was
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, the main thing with Doom Emacs is that it's just very easy to configure. It's just like the whole configuration environment is just.
It's very extensible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just extensible
too
and
extensible.
it's simpler than the GNU Emacs itself. And the main reason I use Emacs is the LSP, and it's just better than any other LSP I've used so far. Except if you use a specialized IDE from JetBrains, maybe those have better LSPs or maybe as good LSPs, but I'm not sure.
No,
So Emacs is just
something
it's
that
not that
works.
heavy. It can be easily optimized in every way. It's just it's just a perfect editor for stuff like C++,
Yeah,
for me
the
at
thing
least.
is, Richard, I think the reason you think the LSP is great because you know they all use the same LSP code, VS Code, blah blah blah. They all use Clang D mostly.
Yeah, they all use Clang.
But the thing is that with Emacs, remember we enabled native compilation that day when you installed it.
Yep,
I think that's the
it's
thing.
fast.
And it's fast as
Yeah,
fuck.
it's the native. I forgot to mention the native compilation.
It's a
Yes,
legit
it's
feature.
just very fast.
It is very fast, yeah. What about you, Dwight?
Well, I've used two text editors, I guess, in my life. I've used Vim and Nano, but I didn't really like Nano because it was just too basic,
Yeah,
I
Nano
guess,
is
for
just a
me.
bit retarded, not gonna lie.
So I just used Vim, and I like Vim. You know, it's just great. It took it some time to understand the keybinds, but once you get it, I like it. You know, it's pretty good.
Yeah, Vim is
It
like the
gets the
middle
job
ground.
done.
It's like the middle ground between,
Yeah.
extensible and bloated. Because Vim is. Do you use
Yeah.
Vim, VI, or NeoVim?
Vim.
Just normal Vim, alright. What a
Yeah,
chat.
it's normal Vim.
What about you, Steve?
You see, the story starts with, of course, Nano, when I started using Linux. Then I went to Vim, and then I went to VS Code. And then I came back to Vim when I had this, rising Vim phase. I think Code Reach recalls that extremely well. And then I went to Emacs for a while. Yeah, of course he does. Then I went to Emacs for a while. And after realizing that Emacs was not for me because I cannot, I am a dumb human being. I'm a pretty lazy human being, all right? I don't like to remember 60 million keybinds because I done with that shit like fucking high school. Remembered enough shit. That's why I don't use Vim either. It's gonna sound extremely idiotic, but at least now we're recording, so you guys can't curse the fuck out of me. Yeah, I'm gonna take the fullest advantage of this. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
I find
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
so. Yeah, sorry, Rashid, you were saying something.
I was laughing.
Come on, man. If I were to say this in a normal voice call, you both would find my address. Anyway, so then.
So yeah, so for me, it's basically very similar. I mean similar
Except that you
in
didn't sell
some
on
way.
VS Code.
So I'm using Vim, for example. Fun fact: my
balls,
notes
you're
are
using
written in Vim
Sublime
for
Text.
this. Yeah, but chill. I'm using Vim when I'm working in a CLI. And for example, fun fact: the notes for this episode were written in Vim, at least the notes I took. And then on the other hand, I use Sublime Text for just general coding, and especially I've also tried using Vim key bindings within Sublime because I really like Vim key bindings, but it's just doesn't feel right. It kind of interrupts my workflow for whatever reason. I don't know. But yeah, I'm using Sublime Text, and I don't know if you know, but Sublime Text requires a license. But as I like to say, Sublime Text users are like the kid who steals cookies from the jar. They know it's wrong, but they can't resist the temptation of being able to use a great product for free. And I feel like that's kind of the way I go about Sublime Text. But on that note, yeah. But on that note, because we've got the two sides between Vim and Emacs. I feel like you cannot talk editors without mentioning the Emacs versus Vim war, and I feel like a never-ending battle between words and pixels, where the only winner is the one
Also,
who. Hey,
30-year-old with beards. How could you forget?
wait, give me a sec. I think it's a never-ending battle of words and pixels, where the only winner is the one who can withstand the carpal tunnel syndrome the longest. So I feel like looking at the Vim history, and we're also gonna get to Emacs. First there was VI, which was created by Bill Joe. I'm gonna pace through this history real quick. Then we've got Vim, which was an extendable version, and then NeoVim when folks were unhappy with the quote unquote new version and created, implemented Lua, I think, in contrast to Vim script or whatever it's
Sorry
called.
for interrupting
And
you,
you know
but
what?
Like, didn't the Vim guy
Huh?
just stop accepting pull requests or something? The main Vim guy?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
he
he did
did.
stop
Yeah, because
accepting pull
that's the
requests.
reason they stemmed off to NeoVim. It's not that he didn't like Vim. It's just that he just wouldn't. He's like, no, it's just blow,
I see.
it's just blow.
I see.
Yeah,
But you know what? You know what Roblox and NeoVim have in common?
Lua, of course.
Exactly.
And
And
also,
that's,
kids that fight
one of
against
the
each
difference.
other for stupid
Yeah,
reasons.
it makes it very extensible, and it's a modal, so-called modal editor. And Bill Joy, probably thought, yeah, let's abstract some key bindings. And today, and that's the creation of Vim. You have key binding for basically everything. And for example, there are many minimal modern versions such as Helix, which kind of use different key bindings, but are inspired by Vim. And I think then you've got like Emacs with GNU Emacs started with Guy L. Steely Jr., who started this project, and it became a family of text editors. What I personally really like is that you've got this quote unquote new interface when you're able to like stylize and format text better and render stuff. And I feel like it could also be integrated into terminals, so that, for example, escape sequences could be used to render stuff, so that you're not bound to having like just text based, but also could be able to render stuff, such as I think the Eternal Kitty does it.
iTerm
Does
2
it
does it
already?
too. Because there's like this awesome feature in iTerm 2. There's this like a command line utility that you can optionally install. It's called imgcat. It is beautiful. You can literally print images into the terminal, and iTerm 2 supports that. They are completely like
Yeah.
full resolution.
I feel like that should be the standard, or that should be the developing following, like console-based stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is that what if you're not using that terminal? You're fucked.
Yeah, but I feel like Emacs kind of replaces the whole concept of TUI and many GUI applications. It's somewhat a text editor on drugs. I feel like
It's more an
people use it as people use it as the desktop environment. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy.
Fuck, what is
And
that?
I feel like it
What the
kind of,
fuck?
as far as I know, yeah. And it kind of goes to show that, with Emacs, you learn this whole new system. That's also what Luke Smith ranted about. You learn this new system, and I think it's very appealing for people who want to, relearn doing basic tasks and stuff. And it's also very, extensible, and it seems like it fits certain people very well. And
Oh,
I feel like it's just as valid to use it.
Certain people.
But
I wonder.
but then again, Emac is also kind of like a medieval torture device. Its complexity can make you lose your sanity, and that's at least what it was for me.
That's one of the reasons why I like Doom Emacs. It's like it just takes all the Emacs torture away from you and just gives you a very nice little
Yeah, that's great.
config system.
But-
And it just leaves you with a more powerful Vim, kind of.
I see. So I mean, because it's more or less a family of text editors, the different forks and stuff probably make it also easier to use and adapt to different people. So that's great. I like that.
Yeah, it is pretty good. But yeah, apart from that, it's just like I have recently moved to some specialized IDEs for some reasons.
Mhm.
Because
Debug.
love it or hate it, debugging, exactly. The debuggers these IDEs have are just
Insanely good.
are very good, especially the
Yeah.
JetBrains IDEs. Like I'm using, I write C# a lot, like 80% of the time, and a writer, their C# IDE, it has a better LSP and a debug for C# than Microsoft's Visual Studio itself. So and it's not very bloated. It's fast, and it's like there's no real reason to hate it except that it's proprietary.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also paid, and it's also overpriced, and it's also closed source, as you said.
They don't have a community edition for it. Like they do have one for
Yeah,
IDEA, the
balls.
Java editor.
It's like like you have a 30-day trial, and what do you do after that? Go fuck yourself, man. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And on that note, this probably won't even work on FreeBSD half the time. Not even kidding, because FreeBSD is like really, really peculiar about proprietary software. I think Dried must be like well accustomed to this, because I don't know. On the note of proprietary software, I was shocked to find out that NVIDIA has a driver for FreeBSD.
They do, yes.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Like they also have a driver for Linux, but
But I mean, FreeBSD is quite commonly used, right? It's it's not as minimal as one would think. It's not as in the sense that minimal. It's not as unpopular as people would probably assume
I mean, I
at
love
first.
BSD. I am a huge BSD fan. I can't use it
BSD
because
is
of
cool.
certain restrictions that include my hardware, because I'm running an M1 processor, and I would lose hardware acceleration. And I, need to watch YouTube at the end of the day and share my screen and whatnot. On that note, Asahi Linux has been making progress.
That is cool. I love Asahi Linux. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, Asahi Linux is like amazing. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the Vulkan driver to be created first of all. They got OpenGL running, and what do you know? Their drivers are actually better than Apple's drivers, evidently. Certain games that they ran.
Yeah, well, Apple has certainly just given up on OpenGL for the most part.
No, they've given up on
they're-
basically everything that isn't metal.
Yeah, that isn't metal, indeed.
Exactly. Which is annoying.
It is very annoying indeed. Like, I would really want macOS to support Vulkan, because it's just Vulkan is the next standard, but it already has
It
become
is
the
the
standard.
current
Like,
standard, yeah, dude. Like OpenGL is old shit. Like,
also, like, it's one of the reasons, like, what the most killable games are Vulkan based.
Doom.
Like Doom. Oh, indeed, both the Dooms, like both the newer Dooms.
Oh, that brings me, I'm sorry for interrupting you, to John Carmack. On the note of IDEs, he really likes Visual Studio. What do you guys think about that?
He does.
Like,
That was an interesting choice. Maybe because, well, it was back in the day. He probably used Visual Studio a lot back then.
No. He's saying current day. Current day Visual Studio is good according to him. And what do you think about the Safe Trucks and Dried? Because, you both, I don't think, have heard this take before. It was me and Codefish. We've had a conversation prior to this about this. But you both, I think it's probably your first time hearing about this.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I'm just surprised a bit, honestly.
Yeah, like John Carmack, the creator of id, for somebody watching who doesn't yet know this yet, the creator of id Software, the company that created Doom, Rage, and other gorgeous games like Quake as well. Games that,
Quake as well.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Not Asphalt. Quake. Games that all four of us, at least Rishit, grew up with and loved.
Yeah.
The thing is that this guy
Yeah.
is literally a bloody genius. And if he's saying that Visual Studio is good, I don't know about you, but I think his words hold some value. What are your takes on this?
I think it's a very personal thing. Some people
Indeed,
prefer,
yeah.
some people have come from different text editors and probably need a different environment, especially also considering the language you're using and the way of you writing software. I think it really depends. It's something very personal, I think.
It is quite personal indeed. Like, if I were to choose a C++ IDE, even though I wouldn't, it's just edit C++ terminal is just way more than enough for C++ in my opinion. But if I do, it would be C-Lion over Visual Studio all the time. It's just C-Lion is just better than Visual Studio in many ways. It's mostly because of its client support, and it's just I have a grudge against MSVC for the most part.
Yeah, me too. MSVC is just a weird compiler. Sometimes it fails to make optimizations, other times it doesn't have C++ features, other times they have half-implemented standards. It's just some weird errors that MSVC throws every time. It prefers, like Microsoft and Windows, they both prefer static linking, which is dumb, like, at least to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the speed up you gain by statically linking, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it?
No,
Exactly.
I don't think it is.
It isn't, dude, it isn't. Like, you make an application 4 times bigger For what? Huh? For what?
No reason at all.
For literally no reason.
For
Just
literally no
making
reason.
bigger. It's
And
one of just adding to the bloat Windows already is.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think about it, and I'm like, okay, you know, maybe there is a reason. Then I really think hard about it, and the 4 brain cells in my brain that support Microsoft go like, oh, what about version control? Like, you know, what if a program wants a specific version? Well, just do version management, you know, like just do like, you know, like go ahead and like make a version managing tool that manages all the libraries. What do you think about this Aatrox?
About
Static and
version.
yeah, no, about the.
I mean, yeah, I share your opinion on this part.
Yeah, because you know it just doesn't make sense. Like, you
Yeah.
have Qt on your PC 4 times. Why? Why?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, you know, there's totally a reason why there are specific locations predefined for libraries and stuff that you can
Exactly.
use, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, of course there are cases in which it might make sense, but still in most cases it doesn't make sense to ship libraries and stuff. Just, you know, use the ones on those, you know, specified locations.
Indeed. In fucking deed. And I don't think managing library versions should be that hard. On that note, that brings me to, I don't know how, but I really thought about this, and like that brings me to like Rust, and that reminds me for today's topic about that one text editor that somebody wrote in Rust. I think it was Hilux.
Yeah, Helix. Helix? I think it's Helix.
There's a car called Toyota Hilux, and I love it, I guess. Anyway, yeah, Hilux. Why don't you tell me a bit more about Hilux Aatrox? Because I've been thinking, looking into it.
I mean, I've mentioned that you know, it's somewhat seems like it seems inspired by Vim basically, although, you know, key bindings are kind of different. For example, I don't think it has macro support. It's been some time that I've used it, but you know, as far as I can remember, it lacks some, you know, key bindings that you could normally find in Vim and stuff. But it seems a tad bit, you know, more modern and quote unquote modern and more minimal, I would assume.
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of the point. But half of these, you know, Rust rewrites don't make sense to me. But that's just
Indeed.
just me,
Indeed.
you know,
It's just like
it's like, you know, just like the Rust community. I don't know if they're failing to come up with new projects or they just want to show how much better their language is. But
I think it's mostly just the ego, in my opinion. It's
Yeah,
just
they
mostly
just
that,
wanna
oh,
show
we
how
can do
good-
the same thing. We
Right.
just do the same thing in our this new language. We should replace that thing. Like, no.
Indeed. And you know,
If you really want to prove something, it's just better you make something that hasn't been done in like C++ and you manage to do it better in Rust somehow.
bro, there ain't anything to
That-
prove. They're both LLV
Okay.
and backend languages. It's
Okay, so you know what,
Indeed.
I just now installed Helix just so I can, you know, spit some facts. You greeted with or at least in my case, installing it from, you know, the Arch
user
repositories. Yeah, you know, you're greeted with a purple screen, so it's a purple background. Surely you can change that, but it's
I don't think so.
so, you know, it differs from Vim in that regard. Then, for example, you know, Vim has, say, which makes it, for example, unusable for me, because I'm, you know, used to exiting insert mode through Control C, you know, and in Vim, in Helix, you have to use escape. Then again, I don't think you've got macro support, or do you? I don't think you have macro support.
Wiki, I think. Well,
Also,
whatever.
for example, in command mode, which is interesting, if you press Control C, you can comment stuff. So it seems like a mixture between you know, typical editors and and Vim.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't know why you would use something like Calyx though. You just like if you want minimalism, use Old Vim. If you want complexity, use Emacs. Like at this point, we have everything for everything. But you know what we need? We need some more like programming languages first of all. Like Zig is a new upcoming one. Rust, I think, is good. It's just not my thing. Coderich tried it true, and you can hear your opinions from him. But what about you, Dwight? Because I've never asked you this before. What are your thoughts on Rust? I've asked both of them though, so they can go. Lisa.
Personally, man, I honestly, it's a pretty cool programming language. I mean, I don't really like like have like an opinion on it because I haven't really used it. But I mean, I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, that's the problem with Rust. You keep hearing these great things about it, and you use it, and it's a decent language. But then I don't know.
But one thing I don't understand is I don't know what's so good about it. No one really says what's so good about it. All they say it's like really good.
No, let me tell you what's so good
Yeah.
about it. It has a static analyzer, which does memory check, borrowing, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's memory. It's a memory-safe language by design.
It uses a different system to manage memory.
Yeah, borrow checking.
Yeah, exactly.
It has a borrow checker. And everything is borrowed, blah, blah, blah. There's like no raw pointers used mostly. There's unsafe loops, but we'll get to that some other day. Point here being, also everything is immutable by default. Who would have thought? But yeah, that's kind of the only redeeming feature it has for me, at least, that I can see.
You know what? I've actually used Rust
Quite a
for
bit.
big projects.
Yeah.
The thing is just, when I'm coding in Rust and say I'm 2 hours into coding session, in getting into my flow, there's always this time, and it's not like I haven't used Rust multiple hours to try to get some experience with the borrow checker, but I always start losing my mind and go extremely aggressive while using the borrow checker, and I have absolutely no idea why that is. But this also prevents me from writing good software fast.
It's
And I
obtrusive.
also like being able to implement stuff fast, which is why I use Python for first implementation, so proof of concept software. But still, once I started having a language crisis after starting to realize Rust isn't totally my thing, and I tried thousands of languages.
Next episode's gonna be languages.
Maybe, but and finally I settled down on Zig, and Zig provides basically everything that I need from a programming language, and
The problem
that's
with
kind of
Zig-
my take on Rust.
Zig, in my opinion.
But it's a great language. Is the software written in Rust is often high quality. It has insanely big, library, library repository or whatever you may call it. Yeah, the crates. They've got a ton of crates which you can use,
Yeah.
and the cargo system is wonderful. Yeah, exactly. It's a great language for real.
Indeed. But what do you think about
And also unique spin to the memory management.
To be honest, the memory management part, I'm about it. What do you think about it, Rashid?
Well, with the standards, the only language I need to actually manage memory is in C++, and the standard C++ has, like the idiomatic C++, it just pretty much makes your code foolproof in a way if you follow them. Like RAII, if you use it, you use the correct copy moves and delete semantics. As long as you're following that, it shouldn't be a huge issue for you.
Right.
In C, though,
it's not foolproof.
in C, it's not that foolproof. It's not. It's you will have to do stuff manually. It's just more manual than C++, in my opinion.
Yo, what's
Like,
up,
yeah,
I'm
sure.
back.
Like, oh, hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
My bad.
like, one could just say, yeah, just call it free, dude. Like, yeah, I could, but what?
how about you don't call
Like-
free, huh?
How about like let my language just call a destructor for me, and I just define the destructor.
How about my
And
smart pointers be smart and you take your ass away?
yep, indeed.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on memory management most for the most part. Otherwise, well, when I need to just get things done quick and dirty, I just use C sharp and optimize it. Well, of course, I optimize it. It's a fast language.
Dude.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's mostly what that's what I have on memory management.
I mean, dude, I'm just a goofy dude. I've made a couple of things in Rust. I made Zap. Nobody probably knows about it because I stopped working on it.
Except
No
I do.
idea.
Except he does.
Except I do.
Except code ratio.
Oh,
Dude.
bro, tell me. You gotta tell me.
It's basically zip but faster. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's the most useless thing after me. Anyway, the thing here
Oh.
being,
It's also contributing to the fact that Helix. What you were saying that Rust developers seem to like to be able to say, yeah, I can write the same software but better.
Okay, come on, don't bust my balls
Yeah.
for it.
You just did that, Steve. Yes,
that was,
Steve.
that was my
It's
Rust phase.
happening.
That was my Rust phase. Okay, we don't talk about that shit. No,
Okay.
no, it's a black page. My history, if I have any history.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if you had used the same concept in C++ and like used
wouldn't
atomic
mind. I wouldn't
I/O.
mind. Of course, no, that's not my point though. My point here being that I know a little bit of Rust, alright, at least a little bit of Rust. Now,
Yes.
and I have a couple of gripes with it. First of all, the syntax is fucking garbage. I cannot bother fucking writing that bullshittery. That is
Rust?
fucking
Syntax is horrible. What?
It is fucking shit.
For real?
And yes, I hate it.
I feel like one thing that's cool about Rust is you've got your typical, I think it's standard library iterate or whatever, but you've got so many methods to
That's not the syntax. That's a standard library.
yeah, totally. I know that it's not the syntax, but I'm just saying you've got these methods that you can
And those are borrowed from
stack
Haskell.
on top of each other, and you can manipulate the output. That's just very cool
Yes,
about
it's
Rust.
very
But then again, also the syntax. Man, this is
funky?
just basic syntax. I mean, the Rust syntax is just beautiful in a way, for real.
I wouldn't agree with that, to be honest. Sometimes it can be obtrusive, it can be ugly to look at, the way a lot of people format it. It forces conventions on you, which I don't particularly like, being the pseudo-American that I am, my freedom. Also, the borrow checker, to be honest, it's fine, I can deal with it. My main problem used to be, I'm gonna get cancelled for this. The community, they're cool people, don't get me wrong, they're amazing people, but sometimes they can be a bit condescending in, if you use C++ or like C or some other thing, just go like, just use Rust, just rewrite it in Rust, there's no point, you'll never be able to do this in a secure way in C++, and dude, it's fine, but you can learn to be a bit more optimistic about your code,
Speaking of communities, I'm so surprised by the Zig community. There's Discord servers, and once you run into an issue and you've wasted days trying to debug the issue, you just post your question on these Discord forums or whatever they're called, and you get instant help within like 2 or 3 minutes with the response that will fix your issue. And it's so utterly surprising. They are very kind. And it's very interesting how different languages, have different kind of communities that, are, some are kinder, some are less kind.
Yeah,
So it's very interesting.
The Rust community, at least in my experience, has been great. If you're asking for Rust help, they're amazing. If you're asking for, God forbid, any other form of help, well, you're in for a ride. But yeah, that's it. My main gripe with Rust is just that, the Rust people can be a bit condescending. Now, this might be a very This might be a idiotic take. Thank you. Thank you there, Atrox. Idiotic take, but that's kind of my whole gripe with Rust and the syntax, of course. It's just not my thing. Anyways, personal opinion, I am just a huge C++ fanboy. You cannot change me. Linus Torvalds couldn't, so you probably can't either.
Damn.
No, as in I obviously didn't talk to Torvalds or anything. I'm not that cool. But
Honestly, like I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys right now. Like, how well developed is Asahi Linux for gaming? Like,
not
that's like
well
one of my
developed at
biggest.
all. Not
Is
yet.
it bad? Is it good?
No, you
Is it
can't
good?
game on it. It's OpenGL 2.1 and 3.1 and OpenGL
Oh.
ES. Yeah, so it's like, they're living in 2008. So if you want to play a game from 2008, be my fucking guest. They're working
2004.
on
Oh, I mean that's all I really play if I'm keeping it above 50. I mean, like,
No,
all I
you
really
easily
play
keep
is
it above
TF2 and
No, you can't play
Yep.
TF2 yet, sadly.
what that game's from 2007.
But they're updating it, they update the
Oh.
standard. I'm saying it's a game that is like,
Damn.
was like fixed to die in 2000 something. However, let me still Google that. I'm sorry if somebody can hear my keystrokes because I don't have noise
It's all good.
So
You have a great keyboard, bro.
it's literally the integrated Mac.
The best keyboard.
Thank you
Oh.
very much. It's Aatrox here who has the best keyboard, the Apple II Classic.
I don't know. Yeah, I've got a
Wait,
very
you have an
old
Apple
keyboard.
Yeah, he has an
I've
Apple
got
II.
an Apple Extended 2. It's so
Oh.
damn old, but then again, I just fell in love with it. You can game with it without issue. I'm not facing any latency. It's it's quite massive in size.
Oh.
It's just awesome to work with.
Well, as are most things that are massive in size.
Yeah, that would be weird to put it out of context. But anyway,
Well, I don't think anybody on YouTube's gonna do that. Not some guy named Steve Cremery, certainly. Anyway, so the main problem for M1 Max is not, in fact, Asahi Linux. As of now, it is ARM. Who would have fucking thought? So,
ARM is great, honestly.
ARM is great, man. Risk 5,
ARM is
well, it's
amazing.
probably better because ARM is the company that makes it. Whatever. Nobody cares about this. Anyway, and the two people who do, you have my respect, man. So anyways, as I was saying, the problem is that, on macOS you have Rosetta. Rosetta does the job for you. You go like, okay, open me an x86 app. And Rosetta, I think, don't quote me on this again, what it does is it changes the syscalls or changes the assembly. I don't remember exactly, but that's something. I'll leave a link somewhere, just for the curious ones who actually care about what Rosetta does. But the thing is that you don't have something similar on Linux right now because there's just not a fan base for ARM out there who are eager to use x86 apps. And considering the folks that use Linux, all they use mostly is open source software. So until it gets to the gaming folks, like gaming on Linux folks, I don't think we're gonna be having any attention paid to the ARM x86 translation unit, unless of course some guy's already done it. Then that guy has my respect.
I mean, the game porting toolkit is kind of similar, but it's very macOS specific to games. And also, I think the Steam Deck it brought. No, it's not ARM.
Steam
Never
Deck's
mind.
not ARM. Steam Deck's a fucking PC in your hand, man. That shit's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine when it gets hot. You gotta put it in the refrigerator.
No, wait, let me check.
You know that thing you do when you're like a child and you have like you're gaming on like a hot laptop from like the early 2013s and you're like, oh, it's so hot. You can't even hold the laptop. You know what I'm talking about? You guys get what I'm saying?
I know.
Yeah. Burns.
Right, so apparently the Steam Deck has an AMD Zen 2 CPU with 4 cores, 8 threads, and the top clock seems to be 3.5 gigahertz. Has 16 gigs of LPDDR5. They just keep adding letters in front of DDR, man. What the fuck? Letters I don't understand.
Damn.
Who would have thought?
They be adding hella stuff in front of the letters. They be adding my name, my address, my phone
my
number.
IP address is on there. Anyway.
Damn.
They got me this time for real. Okay, I should stop.
Damn.
Damn, Daniel. Don't make me do it. So the PS4, for context, because I have one in front of me, and I love my PS4. Like, it's my best friend after you three, I think. So it has an 8-core AMD x86-64 1.6 gigahertz CPU.
Damn.
My God, that's slow. That shit's gonna
Slow like a
yeah.
turtle.
Slow like a turtle. But the thing is that you can't really afford to waste as many clock cycles on the PlayStation, I think, then, because it's really surprising. The PS4 can run modern games as good
Yeah.
as my Mac can. Well, what? No, it's not that bad. But it's insane how game developers get to run shit. Well, anyway, I don't think anybody would like to watch an episode longer than an hour, so how about we stop it right now and continue?
But I think
Yeah, that's-
also I think I'm speaking for everyone here. Since this is the second episode, this could go somewhat in any direction. So I guess why not leave some suggestions in the comments or ask questions if you have any.
yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
That'll be amazing, yeah. So, if you have any
some feedback or whatever.
Yeah, like our mics suck, which we are aware of. You don't need to mention that.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that's really the only issue here. Aside from
Or mention it. You know what? It'll boost this video anyway.
it'll boost this video, first of all.
Any comments really.
Yeah. Just go easy on the slurs. That's all I ask of you. So, thank you. Really, if you've gotten this far, you really have some dedication, right? And have a great one.
All right. Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeet.